Hey, this is Andrew. I'm just making a video of my round 4 tournament game against Gentle Whisper. I'm joining the game in progress because I was just finishing my lunch. So we've played many games and he almost always plays the closed Sicilian against me, so we'll just go for that. I think he plays a little bit of a sideline, but I don't remember off the top of my head. D3 is the main line here. Okay, now D6, knight F3, knight E2, F4 moves. F4 is a little bit less good in my opinion. Alright, not sure quite what to say yet, but the plan is basically just for him to try and steamroll me on the king side with moves like F4, G4, F5, and black almost always has defensive resources to prevent that, so we shouldn't get checkmated. Now he has to be a bit careful. Bishop E3 is sometimes premature because of knight G4. I'm sure he's on top of it. Yep, there we go. And the move here is to just castle and ignore what white's doing. The point is just that we can always defend against the attack. We always have resources. Kasparov played these setups with knight F6 a lot of the time. Here there are a few moves. Rook D8 with the idea of B5, B4 is a move, and knight D4 is the other move. Knight D4, the idea is that if he can't play bishop H6 anymore because take, knight C2. I'm not sure what I've played against him. Most likely he's probably booked up against this, or against some of our previous games. There are other moves too, of course. I think those are the only critical moves, but you can play a move like E5 too, and that's no big deal. It's just a different type of game. It's a little bit too late to transpose back to a setup with E6 and knight E7 because the knight's already on F6. So the move that I usually play here is knight D4, and the reason is that he's omitted knight E2 or knight F3. If he's played that, then knight D4 is impossible because I'm losing a pawn. But where he hasn't played it yet, I have time to play knight D4 and kind of a clamp in the middle. Excuse me. One plan is to play knight D1 and C3. White usually wants to move this knight so that he can play C3, and C3 blunts the dark square bishop here and chases the knight out of D4. The only move that absolutely cannot be considered is bishop H6, as we already mentioned. Okay, so he plays knight D1. I think that might be the main line. I'm trying to remember all of my analysis. It's been a while since I've played a closed Sicilian. I think B5 is a move here. I know E5 is a move here, but yeah. I'm tempted to just play e5 and just play it into that position. The point of e5 is that after c3 we can play a move like knight e6 or something, or knight c6, and because his knight's no longer on c3, the d5 square is a little bit less weak. Alright, I'm just going to go for that. I'm just going to play e5. That's my... this is the setup that I'm more familiar with, just c5 and e5. And after c3, just knight e6. The biggest problem for black is the dark squares around the king, and moves to exploit it are often g4, f4, f5. So e5 stops f4. If f4, we can play a move like knight h5, hitting g3. Okay, so c3, knight e6. And now he can play bishop h6. Because there's no longer knight c2 forks. And we have a position that's more or less equal. White has some attacking chances on the king side. We just kind of defend, and a lot of times black's better in the endgame for reasons that I don't fully understand. Alright, I think I'm just going to play b5. And then he should castle and play f4 at some point. Now you can think about f4 because g3 is defended, so knight h5 isn't as good. I might still play it, but it's not as good. Other normal moves are rook e8. So the idea of that is that if bishop h6, we can play bishop h8 and keep the bishops on, which is usually good for black because then we're defending against mates on g7. Yeah, b5, like I mentioned, b5, rook b8, bishop b7 are all common moves. We want to kind of play for d5. I mean, I might even be able to play d5 immediately, but it just I feel like it's a little bit too weakening. In a tournament game, I'd probably try and figure out if I could play d5, but I'm not going to waste time right now. I'm just going to play b5. He should probably play f4. He can castle. a4 is potentially a move too. Okay, he just castles. I kind of just want to play bishop b7 to contest this diagonal and support d5. Now he's going to be a little bit more hesitant to start pushing these pawns because of his king's there and his rook is no longer on the h-file. We get a more positional approach to this, although he still has attacking chances. Anytime you have this queen and bishop lined up, white usually has attacking chances. Alright, I'm just going to play bishop b7 and develop. Sorry, I don't really have much to say. It's kind of I'm just going to be in a maneuvering position for a little while. I don't want to get too low on time because almost inevitably white will get an attack at some point, and then I'll have to calculate stuff. Black's plan is to just play d5. White's plan is to play f4 and f5. Pretty straightforward. He can probably play f4. If f4, I'll take. He'll take back with the g-pawn, and then maybe rook e8 or something like that to put pressure on e4. The other point of rook e8 is in these positions is that it allows knight f8 when he chases the knight on e6. Alright, I'm thinking that he's definitely going to play for f4. I mean, he's going to play for f4. I'm thinking that he'll play f4 this move. Oops. After f4, I guess he could take back with the knight. He can't take back with the bishop because knight takes bishop is too much for black. The dark square bishop that I have just becomes really strong. f4, he takes f4, bishop takes f4, knight takes f4, and g takes f4 and b4 or something. All of a sudden c3 is starting to get weak. The d4 square looks inviting. I might prepare b4 with a5, but the point's the same. What else can I say about this? At some point I'm probably going to play knight h5. It's just kind of what happens in these positions. Okay, bishop h6 immediately. Wasn't expecting that. I mean, it looks logical. I'm sure I can do it. I probably should just play d5. The point of d5 is just that fundamental principles, an attack on the wing should be met by a counterattack in the center. So the only real question is whether I should take on h6 and then play d5, or just play d5. And the point of taking on h6 is that the queen is sometimes out of play on h6. It looks threatening, but it's slightly out of play too. And sometimes the king is a little bit weaker on g7 than it is on g8. Although, in this case, I probably want my king to be on g7 so that I can play rook to h8 and h5. Depending on what happens. What else? I could ignore it and play knight h5, but that's probably not good because I'm losing an attacker on e4 and an attacker on d5. And I just don't really... rook e8 is the only other move that is kind of normal in these positions. Sorry. My screen keeps on blanking out because I'm playing on battery power. Alright, I'm just going to play d5 immediately. And then I'm calculating some lines where everything gets taken off on d5. The nice thing is that he won't be able to play f4 after d5. It's complicated. the knight comes to d5 and he can't really take because I end up with... Okay, so he just takes. I end up taking with the knight, and then queen g5 check happens. So. Maybe I'll show some of those lines after the game. So the point in d5 is in every Sicilian, black's dream is to play d5 because that's the freeing move. You play c5 and then you want to establish pawns on d5 and e5. Excuse me. I think he should probably take on d5. If he doesn't, I probably am going to play d4. I'll play d4 and then knight h5 to clamp down on f4, and if he ever plays g4, I'll just pop my knight into f4 because his bishop's gone. In my opinion, black is slightly better here. I'm not sure if that's objectively correct or not, but I like these positions for black a lot because I get to play in the center. My rook might come to c8 now because after d4 the c file is the file that's most likely to get opened. I'll probably try and wait until he puts something on e3 to play d4, just so that I gain a tempo. And his knight is eventually going to want to come back into play on e3. Yeah, that's kind of the other thing. His knight on d1 is kind of out of play, so some of my moves will be trying to take advantage of that. Like knight e3, I'll take back. Jeez, sorry. If he takes on d5, I'm almost certainly going to take back with the bishop. A line like e takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight e3, bishop g2. I don't know, he probably would take back with the king there. And then I can play a move like queen t7 to get onto the light squares. Then I can have c6, b7, h3. Oh, it's kind of threats. Okay, f4, that just looks suicidal. Yeah, I don't think that's going to end up working out for him because I can take on e4 and he can't take back with the pawn because of the pin on the queen, and if he takes on e5 I probably play, geez, I don't know, knight h5 maybe there. Yeah, d takes e4 looks interesting. That looks like the best move clearly, and he should take on e5, and then maybe knight e7. I'm sorry, knight d7. Just with the idea of taking back with the knight on e5 and grabbing d3. If I take on e4, he has e5. So that's really not so good. And then if I play knight h5, he takes back on f4, and I have a hard time recapturing because the rook's there. So yeah, I'm going to take on e4, and he can't take back with the pawn. That's the key point. If he takes back with the bishop, he's just losing a bishop after takes. So he has to take on e5. He doesn't have any other move. And yeah, I'm almost certainly going to play knight d7 with the idea of just taking on e5 next. So the line that I'm looking at is f takes e5, knight d7, d takes e4, knight takes e5, and then he'd probably play queen takes queen. I'd take back with the rook, the a rook, and that looks good for me. I have one fewer pawn islands than he does. His pawn is blockaded. His light square bishop is kind of out of play. And with the queens off, he doesn't have an attack, so I can just try and grind out that endgame. And his knights aren't going to be so great because they're a little bit running out of good scores because the pawn is on c3. And I'm up on time now, which is kind of nice. So yeah, he needs to take on e5. I don't see anything else. Oh, maybe knight f2 to defend d3. That doesn't look so good. I just take on f4 then. Screen's blocking out again. Much time has he used? He used 2 minutes, so he took. Knight d7, knight h5 are really the only moves. Knight g8 is just a little bit silly. If knight h5, he probably plays d4. And I can take... maybe play queen b6. I'm just going to go for knight d7. Knight d7, if he plays d4, I take on e5 anyways. So I'm not up a pawn anymore, but, well, I was never really up a pawn. He's going to have a hard time untangling, I think. Okay, so he'll take on e4, I'll take on e5, and then he can either take my queen off, or he can play a move like, I don't know, queen c2, queen e3. Queen e3 looks a little bit out of place because of knight c4. Knight c4 and queen d2 is my point there. And then I'm, after the queens come up, I'm getting e4. So if queen c2, he's defending e4 again. Maybe I can play queen d3. Maybe c4 is better with the idea of knight d3. He could take the queens off and make this all moot point anyways. But yeah, my pieces are, or my knights are better developed than his are, and my pawns are a little bit healthier, so I am slightly better. Yeah, I don't know what else you should do. I like the idea of c4 and knight d3 a lot. If he tries to stop it, like knight f2, I can play knight c5, and I guess I can just play knight d3 anyways, because he can't take, because of c takes. He might have rook d1 there. Yeah, I think he has rook d1 there. Okay, he takes. I'm going to take back with the a rook, because that's the rook that's doing the least, and I might want to play f5 someday. And probably my other rook belongs on e8, pressuring the pawn anyways. I don't know what he's going to play here. Knight f4 is a little bit interesting, to try and hop into d5 and extend the bishop. If he plays knight f4, I'm probably going to take and play a knight d3. I think that's definitely what I would do. What else can he do? He can play knight f2 immediately, I guess. Yep, that's what he does. So I think c4, the idea of knight c5 and knight d3 is probably best, but I'm not sure. Sorry, I can move the mouse. His g3 pawn can get weak sometimes, but I don't have anything that can really attack it. The e4 pawn is going to be the real weak spot, and I'd love to find a way to attack that. Maybe I can play rook d2. He has to defend the knight, and maybe I can take on b2. I don't really love the idea of taking on b2, but I guess I'm covering all the infiltration squares, so yeah, maybe rook d2 is playable. Or more than playable, maybe it's just winning a pawn. I guess his position was kind of tough. Yeah, I think rook d2 looks pretty nice. The point is just that I'm going to take on b4 pretty much no matter what he plays. And then I can play a move like a6 or bishop c6 to defend that b pawn when I want to move the rook away. Bishop c6 it pins. What else? Knight c4 is interesting too. I'm forking b2 on the e3 square, and the e3 square hits his rook and bishop, his knight's bishop. And then I guess he would play, I don't know what he would play there. Probably knight f4 anyways. He's probably going to play knight f4 no matter what I do. And I'm probably going to let him take on e6. Sorry, if I'm winning a pawn, I think this is good for me, so I want to make sure that I figure stuff out. I like rook d2, that's the first move that I looked at, and rook on the 7th, how bad can it be? I think knight f4 is probably best. Rook e1 just doesn't look as nice to me. And then, okay, so he does it immediately. Well, 12 seconds worth of immediately. I am going to take on b2 now. And the only other move I have to really worry about is knight d5. And I guess I can just ignore knight d5. Alright, so I'm a pawn. Hard to complain about that. Alright. That move, I wasn't thinking about that, but I guess that's good. I pretty much have to take, huh? Taking bishop c6, I guess. Do I have anything else? Rook a2 or do anything? Oh, he can't take on b5 because of bishop a6, so that's cute. So I'm probably going to take on a2 and try and beat up 2 pawns. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And I think he just fell for it. Bishop a6. Alright, so this is probably pretty bad for him. He's down a pawn and losing an exchange. He should probably play rook b1. If rook b3, I'd probably throw in bishop c4. Maybe not, but I'd probably just take and knight f3 looks nice if he takes with the bishop. If he takes with the king, I can check and rook c1 to get behind the c pawn. So, I don't know what he's going to do. He might resign here. It's probably a bit premature to resign, but the pawn is nice. So he should move the rook, and then I'm going to take, and he'll take, and then maybe I take on f4. Yeah, I probably want to take on f4. Take on f4 and play knight c4. Oh, maybe not knight c4 if he takes with the bishop. Although if he takes with the bishop, then I have f3 to d2. So let's see what he does. I think he has to play rook b1. I mean, I'm not really thrilled about calculating all of these lines. I'm not really sure what I get from it. I mean, it's not that tactical anymore. So let's see what happened in the game. I think the key point was that I got in d5. Maybe he should play f4 here instead. I think that's what we were thinking. What I was thinking and talking about. If f4 here, yeah, it's still a game because I can't play d5 quite so easily. But now he can't play f4 so easily because of what happened. Okay, so he plays rook b1 with almost no time left on the clock. I'm going to take his bishop off in the exchange, I mean. And now I'm going to play knight f3 to d2. I'm not sure if I'm going to take on g4, I'm sorry, on f4 before I do that or not. Yeah, I think I am, because my knight doesn't have much of a feature, and his knight can be nice on d5. So I'm forking his things, his bishop and rook, not his things, and alright, I'm going to take it. Alright, now we get to figure out how we should play. I'm going to plug in my mouse, just in case we get into a time scramble. I don't have to worry about it later. There we go. Rook to d8 looks good. Yeah, that probably just wins. Well, he has rook b1, but if he doesn't play rook b1, rook d2, knight moves, and then rook d1 check. And that's pretty much it. So, let's see. I think rook b1 is the only move. If he moves the knight to g4, then it's mate in 1. You could probably move the king. Yeah, so rook b1. I'm going to double rooks. Basically forces knight g4. And then I'm going to play rook b2. Actually, I might not play rook b2. I might just wait. I'm probably going to push the a pawn. I can play h5 and pick off the f pawn. Yeah, I'm going to do that. The point is that after my rook comes to f4, he can never take on f7, which is his only kind of drawing, swindling move. Alright, so rook f2, f4, and then I'll take on e4 next. Unless he plays rook e1, in which case I will come up with something else. Alright, I'm tempted to repeat, but I don't want to. The point of repeating would be to hope that his king goes to e1. But I don't want to repeat because he has less time than I do. Although if I spend time explaining why I'm not repeating, that won't be true anymore. And now I don't have to worry about rook b7 because I'm defending the f7 pawn. If he plays rook b7, I don't know. That's the best move there. He plays it. Now if he gets to e6, he's forking me, but I won't let that happen. So I think just push the a pawn. Unless I want to go for mate. Do I have anything resembling mate? No, not really. I could play rook e2 takes e4, but he's going to take off a7, which gets him a little bit closer to a draw. A little bit. I'm up 2 pawns. I think that's going to be enough. Sorry, just wanted to look at something. 2 rooks on the 7th can't really deliver mate unless you can get like the h pawn to h3. Alright, so he's going after the c pawn now. I'm going to push this. If he takes the c pawn off, I take the e pawn off. Okay, I'm going to take his e pawn off. Oops. And now I'm threatening mate and the knight. He can obviously defend the mate somehow, maybe. King f1. Yeah, king f1 looks like the only way to do that. And I don't have a way to win his knight or anything, but I'm going to play 3 now. c4. I think this wins. I mean, everything wins, but I think this wins really convincingly. Knight d3 is the only move that I see. Sorry, I'm looking at rook a to e2. The point being that I'm attacking the knight, so the knight moves, and then I play a2, and then I'm threatening rook e1 check and queens, and so he doesn't have time for rook a5, but I think knight d3 might save the day for him. And then I just have rook h2, or rook d3 even, or rook b2. Everything wins. It might turn out that there's something a little bit more precise. I might flag here too. Nope, not going to flag. Alright, a2, and then rook a5, and rook d2 should finish it. If knight f2, rook f4. And if anything else, I'm going to check on d1. Knight c1 maybe, and I'm just winning his knight. Okay, knight c1. Almost no time left. So, do I have anything better? It's kind of sadistic to look for something better now, but I'm going to anyways. Rook c4, knight a2 doesn't work. Yeah, so rook d1. I'll just beat up 2 pawns and a rook. Okay, now he flags. Okay, good game. GG. So, let's look at this. I think there's a way to copy a game. Somebody can tell me that. Okay, I don't know. I'm just copying the moves down at the bottom so I can put them into chess base. Oops. And go back. And I should have a board open that doesn't show you guys everything about my databases. Just going to try and fit it into the blinking window. Okay. He's saying that I played all of his suggested moves, so he'll look brilliant. I guess he made a video too. Okay, so standard opening. Let me just peek here. I don't think I have an up-to-date database on this laptop, so that's okay. H3 is the main move. I usually see knight moves here instead of bishop e3, like knight e2 in castles. That's the other move. Okay. F4 is like one of the main moves too. This I don't know if these F is a lot of times we East in a way the most move is knight, and we just get some kind of it's similar except white has played F4 really quickly, so he's going to try and attack. And then the point here is we play rook b8 and b5 real quick. So he plays h3. If he plays bishop e3 immediately, black's nearly positionally winning already, which is kind of ludicrous, but it's just how it works. So h3 is the main move here, and then we play b5, as you can see. Okay, anyways, so bishop e3, knight f6. So now I'm threatening this. So if he plays queen d2 immediately, knight g4, and black's doing really well because his bishop's coming off. So he plays h3 to stop that, castles, queen d2. Now the point is that he hasn't moved this knight yet. A lot of times knight e2 is a move too. Yeah, knight e2 is the other move. F4. This is an old database again, but I've seen this before. We can still sometimes do this plan of knight d4. Okay, queen d2, knight d4, and e5. So this is the setup that I'm familiar with, just kind of like an English setup almost. The point is just that we're going to try and stop f4 as long as possible. So every one of our pieces is kind of focusing on f4, the pawn, the knight. This knight can come to h5 and help. Yeah, and sometimes we play queen b6, hitting b2, hitting f2. So knight e2 supporting f4, b5. Black's play is almost always on the queen side in these positions. Castles, bishop e7. I'm just going to make a few moves. Okay, so bishop h6 is probably where it starts to go downhill. Okay, so let's see what the engine says. I think f4 here immediately is going to be stronger. It's probably going to hate me for doing this. The video is not going to be happy. That's okay, so we won't use the engine. So yeah, I play f4. Threatening boarding it would chase my knight away, so take rook e8. And now if f5 we have knight f8. We're hitting e4, we're still supporting d5, and e5, e5, so if you're hitting 5, I'm going to take. If he plays a move like this, we probably just take. Something like this is really good. Actually, we probably take with the bishop, that's even better. But yeah, f4 I think is still his best try. Because he's not going to make a nothing move here, he's going to do something like knight f4 to clamp down on some of these squares. And now it's kind of hard for me to play d5. I probably still can, but if you hit bishop's another move on, I'd take him, but Okay, 16. The move as the game was doing this first, because the queen here. But he can probably play this. Oops. This one. Actually, F5 is pretty good too. Yeah, this doesn't look so much fun for me. So I like the way I played it. D5 immediately. Actually defends pretty well. Looking at queen c2, I think is knight c4. Queen has queen d2. Now we're hitting e4 and the rook. So after the rook moves, we can just take. And we're hitting this, so he doesn't have discoveries. So take, and yeah, this looks really good for black. We're just up a pawn. So queen c2 looks more normal, and probably c4 here to try and play this. If knight f2, I was thinking this immediately because of this fork, but I think rook d1 saves the day. But probably I can just win like that. And something like this is going to be real trouble for him. I hope I would have seen that in the game, but the move that I quickly saw was just knight c5, just adding another piece to d3 and getting ready to drop it in. And now there's pretty much nothing he can do to get rid of that. He has to play a move like this, and I don't know, maybe I want to wait. Maybe I want to play queen g5 first. Yeah, probably queen g5. Sacks is like this. The idea of bringing the knight here, but I don't think it's worth an exchange. Oops. I'd like to play knight f4, but the point of queen g5 is that it stops this. Yeah, and as the arrows are helpfully showing my threat is knight h3 and queen h2 mate. Okay. So the game continuation, I think black's just much better here, especially after this. I was looking at knight f4 immediately, so that if this, he still has time to just defend, but I was thinking take and play knight c4, with the idea being that we can jump to one of these standard squares, or play rook d2. You can't play knight anymore, and if we just take 2 as you n2, taking f4 gets rid of pretty good edge here. But the game continuation, I just run a pawn, and then should probably use this. This is kind of what I was looking at in the game. I mentioned bishop c6 instead of a6. This is kind of the position that I was talking about. I actually, this move will in the game. I can't take on bishop h6. Yes, after this, I'll shoot. Anyways, good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I really like playing Gentle Whisper. I really like playing this opening. He knows a lot about the closed Sicilian, so it's kind of nice to play somebody who knows what they're doing. Anyways, good luck to anybody who's playing in the tournament, and